Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terror Podcast, Season 10, Episode 18. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for checking in with us this Monday, Steelers Nation. And Dave, we talked about on last show that this wasn't a must-win, but it was kind of a must-win to avoid the conversation we're going to have today. Steelers start 0-2 for the first time since 2013, lose 28-26 to the Seattle Seahawks. And while we have a lot to talk about today, unfortunately, most of it is negative.
Yeah, it's not a good day to be off your depression medicine, I don't think. A lot of negative.
Or a good day to start taking it.
or a good day to maybe start taking it as well too. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, it was an ugly Sunday from top to bottom. Pretty much all aspects of the game. There wasn't too much to get excited about. And then, boy, when the injuries started rolling in game, it didn't seem like they would stop. And we got one big one to talk about in Ben Roethlisberger as well.
Yeah, so let's start there with the injury report. We have an article up on the site on Steelers Depot from our Dr. Melanie Friedlander going through the long list of injuries, but none more important, perhaps none more serious than Ben Roethlisberger. We'll probably find out more information on that injury today, suffering an elbow injury sometime in the first half. I know there was a report that said he was dealing with an elbow inflammation throughout the week, but this thing could be serious, couldn't it?
It sounds like there's a possibility of it, but I mean, let the record stand that right now when we're recording this, it all seems to be speculative at best right now. Adam Schefter had his morning report, and Ian Rappaport quickly followed. And Schefter said that Ben at all cost wants to avoid surgery. Well, yeah, he does. And there just isn't a lot known right now. I think the last real kind of thing that we had was that he was expected to get kind of an MRI on that elbow, probably sometime today, and I would think we would have something a little bit more definitive, maybe not necessarily from the team until maybe Tuesday, but something a little bit more definitive on his status at some point today. I think the big, everybody and their brother now seems to have a video channel or a subscription service where they analyze the injuries kind of in real time based off the TV tape. And, I'm sure you can tell a lot from that. And I think the biggest fear right now, kind of the way that Ben was grasping at his elbow those couple of times, was maybe what they call a UCL tear, I think. And then obviously if that is what it turns out being, then he would need surgery and probably be season-ending surgery at that. However, if you look back at what Josh Allen went through last year with the Buffalo Bills, he kind of had, I guess, what some are calling a similar injury and ended up missing, I think, 4 or 5 games with kind of a strain or something like that of the UCL. I'm obviously was nowhere close to getting into medical school, so we'll leave that to people like Melanie Friedlander and folks like that. But it is speculative right now. I don't think anybody really knows. And, if Ben did in fact have some, inflammation in that elbow last week during practice, which it sounds like he did. And, look, he had Wednesday off, and I know a lot of that upset a lot of people coming off of a week 1 loss. Well, that's what he does, and now we probably know the reason why. I guess best case scenario right now is just to hope that it's maybe along the lines of what Josh Allen went through, that Ben maybe needs about a month rest with this thing, and then can get back at it again. So, like I said, there's no news out there since last night, even though it's kind of framed as news. So we'll just wait to see what happens later today.
And I suppose that missing only a month could be semi-close to a best-case scenario, but of course, with the way this team is right now, missing a month, by the time he gets back, if it comes to that, again, we'll see. It may not matter at that point, but we'll put in the cart before the horse. Other injuries,
well,
James?
look, if you're not going to keep that guy on the sideline. I mean, if he can play, he's going to play, right?
Sure.
Regardless of if he has to miss 4 weeks and you come back and God forbid they're 0-6 or whatever, he's coming back in and he's going to play as long as he's medically cleared to do so. And the fact that it was bad enough for him to leave that game and not come back tells you a lot, because it's a guy that likes to play, that will play through this stuff at all costs. I mean, he's a typical tough guy.
Yeah, look at the Oakland game last year. I thought we were going to get a repeat of the Raiders game where Ben was going to come in super late and try to lead a drive.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, obviously that thing was hurting him. I don't know. I mean, look, I know he landed on that thing early or on the opposite elbow early in the game. Some people say they think they saw him get it, hit the elbow at another point of the game. I haven't noticed that myself, not saying that didn't happen. But, boy, when that thing went on him on that one pass, that earlier pass during that last drive that he was in, it hurt him, man. And then when he tried to throw that deep ball to Juju in the corner of the end zone, kind of the same kind of grimace there as well too. So, keep your fingers crossed.
Yep, all you can do right now. Other injuries, James Conner. Do we even know the nature of the Conner injury? Is it a knee?
Mike Tomlin said knee, I think, and I went back and tried to find it, and I couldn't. Okay. So maybe he just banged it or something like that. So maybe that'll be the best case scenario with him, is it kind of maybe a knee bruise or something like that. So really nothing to add on that.
Sean Davis with a shoulder. Vince Williams left early in the game with a hamstring injury, which was made doubly worse by the fact that he was the signal caller, and the team had to change plans pretty quickly. And Anthony Chickillo with a foot, apparently in a boot, after the game. So
plantar fasciitis. Mike Tomlin even went as far as to say with him, and with the shoulder injury, who knows with Sean Davis? Obviously coming back, just getting back from that ankle injury. I think didn't he injure that shoulder and come back in and then leave again?
I think so.
What was the case with Sean Davis? So I don't really have anything concrete when it comes to that. And man, with the Anthony Chickillo injury, if it is what Mike Tomlin says it is, it sounds like that could be a multi-week injury, and then you would have to think that he would be a candidate to go to IR. With the possibility of maybe returning later in the season there. So, regardless what the status of Ben is, and we'll keep our fingers crossed there. One has to think that Devlin Hodges will find his way to the 53-man roster at some point in this next week. And if so, and if Ben doesn't have to go to IR, well, then you're going to need a roster spot for Devlin Hodges, so that could end up being obviously Chickillo, and boy, there could be a few other roster changes this week that I'm sure we're going to talk about at some point in this show.
Yeah, Trey Edmonds could come up if Connor's going to be down. I mean, you can go through a whole laundry list. And just as a quick aside, speaking of injuries, maybe Steelers are bracing for the same things that Saints fans are dealing with right now. Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport reporting Breeze is going to be out 6 weeks with a torn ligament in his throwing thumb. Obviously, different type of injury than what Ben suffered, but Breeze out 6 weeks. So it was a tough day for quarterbacks yesterday. A lot of those guys were going down.
Tough start of the season for a few of them, right? Foles and boy.
Wentz was getting beat up pretty good yesterday.
Yeah, Wentz got, and then obviously two of your top quarterbacks and Breeze and Roethlisberger. We'll see. Hopefully we'll have some more news on Roethlisberger later in the day.
Okay, Dave, let's get to the game itself. Obviously 28-26, one the Steelers were in pretty close the whole way, but I don't know where to begin with this thing. I just think about all the game-changing and almost direct, point-changing plays in this game, whether you can cite the Daniel McCullers personal foul that took Seattle from a field goal to a touchdown the next play, Dante Moncrief's drop that led to an interception that led to Seattle with the touchdown, to Anthony Chickillo missing that tackle on 3rd and 2. I just think about all the point-swinging plays that if you can just make even one of those three that I just laid out for you, you may come out the victors in this one, and we have a whole different complexion to the season. So I just think about Steelers beating Steelers again and them being unable to get out of their own way.
Yeah, it's definitely not an excuse, but it's what happened. I mean, you started there with the Daniel McCullers penalty. You go back and you kind of look at that, and people wonder, teams kind of rush, and look, the last thing I want to hear moving forward is Daniel McCullers trying to skinny a gap.
Yeah.
let's
First time he's skinnied anything.
Phrasing. I think if you go back and you slow that down, I think Daniel did land on the long snapper's kind of head and neck area, if you will. Mike Tomlin said that's not the intention, that's not our intention. Well, yeah, duh, but it happened, and it ended up being a costly penalty at that. They take 3 points off the board. Next play, bam. Touchdown. So that's a 4-point swing, if you will, right there. And look, I'm not going to dare kind of try to circle this thing back and say, man, the Steelers were screwed by the refs in this, and that's why they lost, and all that kind of stuff. But the play clock did expire on that. At least the television play clock did expire on that field goal attempt. So, if, then, when, what kind of scenario right there. But I mean, it was one. When you go back through the tape, it was kind of noticeable there that the play clock did transpire, and if they call that delay a game, does Dan, do they try to kick from, I guess that one was like from 46 or so. I'm assuming they maybe let the kicker Myers kick from 51. Then does the same thing happen? Does he make it? So many things could have probably changed. I'm not going to be a revisionist of history right there, but other than to say that was a big kind of first turning point in the game.
Yeah, I saw that too with the play clock, but I know there's always a delay between, when the clock hits 0, the ref has to see it, then get his eyes to the field of play, and usually by then the snap's off. So it's one of those things where you kind of get an extra half second to a second if you're the team with the ball. But bottom line,
are we reached a stage now where we should have laser beams and
well, they're still spotting the football with you see in the Thursday game how they spot the ball on that.
Oh my God, that was embarrassing. But maybe some sort of confetti cannon goes off in the end zone, and then you can go back and say you can review. Heck, you can review everything else now. Right. Did the play clock confetti canyon go off before the ball was actually snapped? And ask to review that. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but I mean, that's why you have a play clock, right?
Sure, I get it. That's just the human element of it. But for people that want to yell at Danny Smith, and I know that's going to happen, and fine. I mean, I get it. That's a penalty on special teams. For whatever it's worth, I mean, I was at training camp the one day where they're working on field goal stuff, and Danny Smith will go down the line from the right side to the left side to the middle, talking about the rules of the play, the things you can't do. Remember him specifically talking about the rules with a long snapper and how you can't hit him and what you can do and what's going to be a personal foul and what isn't. And I'm sure it's discussed in the meeting rooms too. So that's, to me, just a moment where the player knows what to do. He just screws it up, and that's on Big Dan.
Yeah, and 4-point swing right there. And then, as you talked about getting on into the kind of the second half there. And look, I mean, overall, the defense wasn't great throughout this whole thing, obviously. But in the first half, I thought they played good enough football to win.
Hell no, what, 7? It was 10-7 at the half.
Right. And the touchdown doesn't, I mean, obviously you don't like to see that touchdown and Devin Bush get beat the way that he did, but you're a bad Dan McCullers penalty away from maybe a first half shutout there. So it wasn't awful. I mean, heck, weren't all their sacks in the first half, Alex? Or
all 4, yeah.
All 4 of them in the first half there. I thought they did a reasonably good job against the run. Now, there were some key missed tackles, Edmonds and, who else? a few more missed tackles early in that game, but nothing really. You got a sense that okay, well at least the defense is playing okay, even though they allowed that touchdown to Will Disley, against Devin Bush there, and then once they missed that field goal to close out the half. I mean, your concern turned to the Ben Roethlisberger injury and all like that. But even then, I was thinking to myself, okay, well maybe they can hang in here. And then you get into the second quarter, they get the 3 and out, of the Seahawks offense, and then really it all kind of just spiraled out of control there. The Dante Moncrief. I mean, how do you not catch that? Alex, and I guess that's a good point to pause here and say, what needs to be done with him right now. I mean, you're not going to save any money by cutting him. I mean, do you just sit him down for a couple weeks here and go with 5 wide receivers?
Yeah, I wouldn't cut him, as unpopular as that notion would be to keep him for now. I wouldn't play him, though. I think got to get healthy. I think got to give him just rest, so maybe 2-3 weeks off. But you just literally cannot play this guy right now. He's got 11 targets, 3 receptions, and 5 drops. I've never seen numbers like that before.
I mean, look, I know this guy wasn't perfect down the field, with Jacksonville. I think most of when his drops have happened in the past is kind of more, I'm talking 18, 19 yards down the field on the sideline. Oh, went right through his hands kind of thing. These are ugly. I mean, these are the kind that you wonder if he's got one of those. Do you remember who Steve Sachs is?
No, I don't.
When they talk about Steve Sachs disease or whatnot,
Steve Blass?
Sachs, S-A-X.
Oh,
he was
okay.
a second baseman for the Dodgers back in I don't know, the 80s or whatnot. He got this thing where he could not throw the baseball to first. He couldn't do it. I mean, he had this kind of mental thing, this mental block that developed in there. Go back and research Steve Sachs.
Well, who's the Pirates? Was it Steve Blass or Kent DeCole?
No, I think you're right. I think Blass. I think Blass had something where he couldn't throw it home or
walked
something.
everyone.
Right at that. So yeah, that's another one as well. Go back and research. I mean, I think there's something in Moncrief's head right now, and I don't know. Is it related to him thinking about that finger? I mean, look, you come out of that first game and you drop the amount of ones that you dropped. Heck yeah, you're probably going to be thinking about it. And to make matters even worse, as if it wasn't bad enough that it was a drop. It was a drop to your young quarterback that put it right on the money, and then you kind of worried what's that going to do to his psyche. And then not only that, it bounced off of his hands and was intercepted. And that ended up turning into a Seahawks touchdown as well too.
And it was on 3rd down. That would have been a first down conversion. Again, point changing plays right there. You rob the Steelers of a chance to maybe get points because you would have been around, I think, midfieldish, and getting closer to field goal range at the minimum. And then it turns into a Seattle touchdown. So maybe that's a good point to talk about Mason Rudolph, because there's a very good chance he's going to be your quarterback this Sunday against San Francisco. How did you evaluate Rudolph's NFL debut?
Boy, from someone who's watched every college snap that he's played, I liked it.
They grew up so fast, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. And watching him go through that first tough preseason of his, and one word came to mind, and that was poised. Was he perfect? No, but he looked comfortable out there, and really even you could start on that throw to Moncrief there. That was a good throw. That was a throw that should have been a 3rd down conversion right there, and 92 out of 100 receivers catch that pass. And then you get on down to some of the decisions that he made in the red zone and all like that. The patience that he had on the kind of that blown up screen that ended up turning into a touchdown. His decision to take off with scrambling. I think just the whole thing. Now, other than him, and look, I mean, even he said, and I think this is going to be one thing and we've kind of talked about it in the past with the arm strength and the distance and all like that, on that flea flicker from James Conner back to him and then down the field to Juju. If he puts that thing out there another 2 feet, that's a home run possibly,
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, and he had said after game that he had never ran that flea flicker, that exact flea flicker play in practice. They've obviously had it, and had it in the playbook and all like that, but he hasn't had a chance to run it. So I thought the timing of that was all good. To hear the Steelers players talk, DeCastro and who else talked about him? So, I think a few others as well too, saying, look, he really proud of him. He came in there and knew the playbook and was poised and had command of the huddle, and it didn't seem to be too big for him. So I guess if there's one kind of positive to kind of roll out there to the listenership, it's the fact that at least you got to see Rudolph perform in a pressure situation with kind of the game on the line, and he passed the eye test, if you will.
I agree. He was good, not great. I agree with all the things you said. The poise, just kind of the moment wasn't too big for him, which is always a good first step. But as you said, he missed from the things he actually did, the throws he actually made, underthrown to Juju. There was the one throw to Deontay Johnson that required a crazy one-handed catch. I mean, I think ball placement was an issue for him there, and but it was better for sure. I mean, great play action. He sold it well. I love what he did on the first touchdown to Vance on that screen. That's supposed to be a quick screen, and it kind of got a little busted, and Mason had to wait for Vance to get open and drop his arm angle and kind of threw it sidearm and just fit it in whatever window you can. So I mean, I liked it from a baseline level, but work to do. And obviously, I don't want to – it is one game, and it's a backup quarterback, and teams don't always game plan for that. And obviously, Rudolph didn't really have any tape, so it's even harder to game plan for a guy like him. So we've seen quarterbacks come in and have that kind of short-term success before. So I don't want to assume that that's going to carry over if he's going to be known as the guy going forward, which we'll see. But, yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot worse from NFL debuts from quarterbacks.
Yeah, normally, I mean, look, it's a confidence builder more than anything that lets him know, okay, I can play. I can compete in these. And look, I mean, I was fairly confident if they would have got the ball, I like their chances of being able to go down there and get a field goal at the end had they got one of the stops at the end there. I didn't feel like it was a lost cause. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's a confident guy. I think the team has confidence in him, but just as big concern with him and what he'll do, next week should he start, but just the whole tone of the offense. And they moved the ball a little bit with him in there, but it's just like, again, Dave, that first half before Ben went down, this offense is just, it's so painful to try to move the football. You can't get the run game going consistently. No one can separate. I mean, it is pulling teeth just to even get first downs at this point. And I know that there's young pieces and guys trying to step up, but I don't get why it's this difficult just to look like an NFL offense.
Looks like they just make stuff up, like a on-air 7, and then all of a sudden they get thrown a defense out there.
Yeah.
It looks hodgepodge, if you will. I mean, look, I understand the decision early, especially to get some of the zone to get the ball in the hands of Vance McDonald, and I'm glad they were able to do that. But once Juju wasn't available early in that game, Ben wasn't going to him, and if it wasn't Vance McDonald, I mean, who was getting open?
Yeah, no one. I mean, even in scramble drills where Ben had 5-6 seconds at time, I mean, nobody could get open. And maybe Ben missed a receiver too. There was a third down early where Juju might have been open. We'll have to go back at the all-22, but it just feels like really there is no clear number 2 on this team right now, at least a wide receiver. You could argue Vance is at number 2 aside from Juju. But, I mean, Juju disappeared for the first half. Teams take him away, rely on other guys to beat you, and they're just is not that guy right now.
No, and it looked like there was no rhythm in it. The running game has just, I mean, running game hasn't worked at all yet outside of that run by Benny Snell Jr., longest run in the game for him. Outside of that, there's really been nothing, what's the word, consistent with that either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, James Conner has 54 yards in the first 2 weeks, 2.6 yards per carry. And I don't think he's playing terribly, but it's just, they haven't had any chance to get the run game going, haven't been able to really commit to it, just because his offense can't stay on the field. And I think the one reason, I'm not giving this as a total exoneration, but one reason why the defense, I think, kind of started to struggle in the second half was because, again, they played a lot of snaps Sunday. I don't know exactly what the snap count was. You might have it, Dave, but they were on the field a lot in that first half, and I think that wore them down by the end of the game.
Yeah, offense ran 57 plays to the defense's 79.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what happened last week. I think it was, I don't know what the split was, but I think it was similar.
Yeah, and I think there was a who was the Dwayne Brown, their left tackle, I think was quoted as saying he could see the Steelers defense wear down late in the game there. Of course, I'm sure they all probably say that after wins. I don't know, but look, I mean, they still had their chance there at the end for the defense. So 5-man rush to let Russell. I know we haven't gotten to that point of the game yet, but to let him go there. Yeah, I mean, look, at least we saw some play action once Mason got in the game. Here's the thing that they need to do with this thing right now. I mean, and assuming Mason. I thought Mason had a good explanation too. Look, you go through this thing at halftime real quick. You know Ben's not coming back in. You go through real quick and you go and you find out what he likes and what he doesn't like. What does he like? What is he most comfortable with in those situations? Now, I'm sure they'll know early this week whether or not Ben can go or not. Then you can get in there and you can design your whole offensive game plan around what Mason likes and then go from there. And hopefully it will include some play action stuff. Hopefully it will include, and look, he's not an under center guy in college, right? But I mean, he's had to do that, as part of the process of learning to play NFL quarterback. Maybe get him up under center a few times in these things. Maybe do some of the things that he was successful with at Oklahoma State, and that's those RPOs, right? Get James White, get him surrounded by some guys he's comfortable with. Get James Washington out there, with him. And Washington, by the way, played the second most wide receiver snaps in this game. Finally, 34 in total. Now, I'll have to go back and look at once Roethlisberger left versus when Rudolph came in. Who got shafted? I mean, they got Moncrief out of that picture real quick. I think, and Switzer as well too. He only played 13 snaps in the game. Thank God. Holton. Here's what I would do, and I'm sure you would probably agree with me right now moving forward with this thing. Deontay Johnson predominantly at the X, Juju predominantly at the Y, and Washington / Holton at the Z, and then one of those two when you bring a fourth wide receiver on the field.
Yeah, I agree. And just a couple of points to make. It's funny you mentioned play action. I'm looking at this tweet right now from Rich Highbar, I believe that's how you pronounce it, from Sharp Football, says that Rudolph used play action 30% of his dropbacks yesterday. And Ben's, obviously contrasting that to Ben's very low play action rate. So it was just one game, but something he probably could see more of. And then another thing I would do, I agree with all that. Deontay, Washington, Juju be your top three, Holton as a number 4. I wrote an article yesterday that I would bring back Eli Rogers, and just to try to give some sort of vertical element down the middle of the field that this offense needs. And I know Eli's not the savior, and he's got his awards, and there's a reason why he was cut, and the reason why he's still a street free agent with only one known visit so far to Miami shortly after he was released. But he can separate, and really receivers on this team are struggling to create space and win on their own right now, and that's what this offense needs, maybe more than anything when it comes to receivers. So I'll take the warts in his game, because this guy can get open, he can make plays down the middle of the field. All the plays, the ones far and few between that this team has made vertically, have been outside the numbers, and so you need someone that can be that middle of the field stretcher, so teams just can't play too high and just take those guys away. So if I'm Mike Tomlin, someone told me on Twitter, talk about what you would do, not what the team would do on this podcast today. If I was Mike Tomlin, Eli Rogers is in Pittsburgh today, and I'm signing him today.
And you're cutting who?
Take your pick. You got a long list. You got IR candidates. I mean, I'm not even saying
you're not going to carry 7 wide receivers.
No, probably not. Well, I mean, at this point, I mean, I don't focus on that element too much. It just depends on health and stuff can change things. I mean, you're cutting J.O. and Elliott. I'm not missing Elliott too much necessarily at this point, but it could be Switzer as well. I'm not trying to say, it's a one-to-one thing. I'm just thinking about who's going to help you. But obviously, we saw Switzer come off the punt return team yesterday. He's averaging 4.1 yards reception right now. I mean, there's 27 running backs with a higher yards per carry than he has yards per reception right now. I don't know if he's not doing punt returns and he's not doing anything at receiver. I don't know what he's offering your team right now.
You know where I come in on that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been preaching this all off season with him. If he can't, if your average depth of target's just going to be 3 yards, and you're just going to average 3 yards of reception, I mean, there is enough. I think he has now 49 career receptions. Is that right?
I can look that up.
With him, that's enough of a sample size, if you ask me. It's not like we're just dealing with 19 or 20 receptions here. And I think you and I went over how many catches down the field he has in that last podcast and all. I've been screaming about this for a while. And if you're taking him off punt returns now granted they didn't pull him off of kick returns, but look, Alex, I could put you back there and you could watch the football go over your head into the end zone. So I don't feel I'm missing anything there. If you're going to pull him off punt returns, you might as well pull him off kick returns too. And if you're going to do that, and you look at the rest of what he provides you as a wide receiver, which isn't much, you're going to be hard pressed to convince me of why he needs to be on the 53.
Yeah, hey, I'm not disagreeing at this point. I think Eli is going to offer you what this offense needs. I don't know what Switzer's offering you. And again, I understand that Switzer had value as a return guy, and I've said that, and that there was trust in him, but he muffed that punt. And Eli's the guy that's going to give you something this offense needs right now. So that's the move that I would make. Will it happen? I don't know, but I think you're 2 weeks into this thing. You got to start looking at any change possible, turn over every leaf to try to give this offense a spark right now, because they feel lifeless a lot of the time, and that's such a 180 from last year.
You just, I mean, I'm if I'm an opposing defense, I'm happy when I see Switzer out there, because I can bang on him and all like that. He's just gonna, he's gonna catch the football, but he's only gonna catch the football 3 yards down the field. So I'm not worried about. And people say, well, why don't you look at Cooper Kupp and all like that? Look, Cooper Kupp's a better player. Just plain and simple.
Yeah, it's night and day comparing those two guys.
He's not. He's not Wes Welker.
Or Edelman.
Some of the things that Switzer was able to do on his college tape, he's just not going to be able to do it at the NFL level. That's just not. He's not going to be able to survive in the NFL doing that. He is not long for having his career over with. I hate to be blunt, Alex, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I understand. No, you got to face a hard truth right now if you're this team.
So yeah, I mean, which receiver, and especially like we said, if you're gonna pull him, and I gotta be honest, I was glad to see him. I was glad to see him pulled off punt returns. I mean, yeah. I'd rather go through my growing pains with Deontay. And because I feel that there's a possibility maybe of him breaking one more so than Switzer at this point. So go ahead and get Deontay Johnson back there on both on both punt returns and kickoffs. And at this point, if you waive Switzer, I think he clears waivers, man.
Oh yeah, who's taking him?
And then just if you're that attracted to him. And throw him on the practice squad or whatnot. Yeah. But we talk about they're probably not going to cut Moncrief. They're probably going to sit Moncrief down. So that's one you're down right there. I like Johnny Holton. Johnny Holton can get open and make no mistake about it. I thought Ben should have hit him, man, early in that game. That was
you put that more on. I saw Twitter blaming Holton for that more than Ben. I blame Ben for that more than I blame Holton.
I blame Ben on that.
Yeah.
That was a classic. Ben just missed him.
Right.
That was reminiscent kind of that Hunter miss early last season, right?
I'm trying to think
Was
which
it
one
early
you're
last
referring
season?
to.
The play that I think Hunter got injured on, right?
Yeah, that was in the end zone. Right. Yeah. I remember. Yeah, that actually is true. Yeah, I do remember that now.
See, I'm not bad for old man, am I?
So
But
yeah, I mean, you had that misplay, you had the underthrow by Rudolph to Juju. I mean, again, point-changing plays. You know, if you hit Juju in stride, because they had to settle for a field goal on that drive, right? 41-yarder by Boswell on the Juju flea flicker. That was a field goal ending drive.
Okay, yeah.
And the Holton one, I mean, at minimum, you're getting 3 points out of that if Holton's able to make that catch. And if it's in stride, it's probably a touchdown. So, like, you can go circle back to basically 5 plays for this game and say if the Steelers make even just 2 or 3 of those, they win this game.
And look, Holton is, I'm not trying to build Holton up for anything more than he is.
Mm-hmm.
But he is a guy that can get vertical for you. And he is a guy that can get a little bit of separation for you. So, he should be a guy that gets on the field in 4 wide receiver situations at a minimum. I mean, I'd rather have him on the field on third and 8 than I would Ryan Switzer right now. So
yeah, you can just expand this defense vertically, which may at least help open up something underneath.
Sure,
they just need
put the threat out there at least.
Right.
And then if you do see the one-on-one matchups out there, attack it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I mean, there in my opinion, I don't know how you feel. I mean, is there a reason even to dress? I mean, there's no reason to dress 6 wide receivers right now. Is there a reason to even address 5? I mean, but I'm with you. I bring somebody in off the street at this point. Eli Rogers probably still has a good grasp of what's going on. That would be move number 1 on the offensive side of the ball that I would do this week would be to bring Eli back in, and I would waive Switzer, bless his heart. I mean, I don't hate the kid. I mean, I know people think I don't like him. The kid's a fantastic kid. It's just it's the same old stuff I've been talking about since the offseason with him, and I think you're seeing it now. And I think they're resigned to the fact now with pulling him off. I don't think just that drop punt alone was the reason, although it might have been, because look, he picked that. There was a lot of space when he touched that football first,
Mm-hmm.
And then you put it on the ground. That space, obviously, that grass gets eaten up quick, and then he got like 1 yard. Stayed back there dancing around. Heck, I mean, you can make an argument for bringing back Deontay Spencer at this point.
But he's still with Denver, isn't he?
Right. That's what I'm saying. You can make a argument for that if he was available. For bringing him back. But I mean, obviously he's not. But I mean, even you would still, I think, kind of be in the same boat with a smallish kind of receiver in there. And make no mistake about it, Spencer had his drops. As well too. So, that's the last thing you want is another guy coming in there that can't hold on to the football. But Johnson is a guy that returned both kicks and punts in college. Go ahead and let him do it now. Free yourself up a roster spot.
Yeah, or even if you wanted to do, Johnson on punts and Holton on kicks, you could do it that way. With Eli, again, I just bring him back because he can separate and he's in shape and he knows the playbook. He doesn't have to get up to speed the way that a street free agent that hasn't been part of your team, the way Eli has, would have to do. So that'd be my advice. Anything else with this offense you would change? Any big changes, small changes? I mean, obviously injuries are going to depend a lot here, but anything else that comes to mind? Because it's just it's brutal. It's 29 points in 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, look, you just got to get. I like to see more power, maybe, Ryan. If you get a chance or something like that. But you're just gonna have maybe some up tempo stuff. I don't know.
Right.
Just something to change the rhythm here in this thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when was the last time we've seen this offense struggle like this? I can't recall.
Yeah, I mean.
I'm asking, I guess, semi-rhetorically, but it's just it's unbelievable.
It's hard. It's not great, right? I mean, and look, the drops have played a huge part in this. Let's not pretend like they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some key turning points in the game, almost for a second week in a row, Alex. I mean, who knows how? I mean, it probably turns out the same with losses both times. But, I mean, you have Dante Moncrief in the middle of a key turning point in the game,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if he catches that, you move the sticks. They don't intercept the ball. They don't get 7 points off of it. That literally could be the difference in the game right there.
You only had 2 explosive plays of 20 yards or more yesterday. That's something you don't see out of this offense. Those few explosive plays. I mean, you miss AB in that aspect for sure. Captain Obvious there is the explosive play aspect. One was the flea flicker to Juju, and then the other one was run by Benny Snell. So that's it. You got to have chunks in this league, and here's the thing too: is the defense at least provided a few turnovers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I took some. And it's a good time to flip to the defense. I took some flack for saying I thought this defense had improved, and as you said, I didn't think it was terrible yesterday, and I say that largely because the only reason why this game ended up being competitive, and the reason why we cared about Seattle's final drive so much, was because his defense at least forced turnovers, something obviously that I've harped on as much as anything this offseason. So them being able to do that, the Watt forced fumble, the Hilton forced fumble, it was huge, and that's how defenses win in the NFL today. So while they have a lot of problems, I would not even classify this unit as a good defense, at least they forced some splash plays that gave the offense a short field and made that a game again. And that's why I think there is some slight improvement for this defense.
Slight, but there were very few. I mean, Steven Nelson, I thought he had a good game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Bush did not have a good game at all.
Nope.
Trying to think. Stephon Tuitt, boy, where's that been? Thank God to see that. Watt. I thought Watt played well. Who else? Who else played well in this one? Was that it?
I think you're out of names. Yeah, I mean, obviously Hargrave.
Cameron Sutton played for the few snaps that he was on the field. I mean, those are kind of things.
Hilton played well. Well, I thought better.
Cameron Sutton, those are the kind of things that we saw early or in the preseason, right? Him being able to get guys on the ground quickly, those sort of things. So that was good to see. I haven't really focused in on Hilton there, but I mean, Bush had a tough game for sure. Sean Davis, I thought, had a tough game. Edmonds, had a pass breakup, but obviously got beat by. And look, that's what'd you think about that? Seahawks finally picked up on that. Get Metcalf lined up on Edmonds, in the slot there, and go after him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big moment of the game. It was an empty set, and you had Steven Nelson on a tight end, even though Nelson had been blanketing Metcalf the entire game. You got Edmonds on Metcalf. I know Edmonds was step for step with Metcalf, but he at the catch point, he was a mess. Didn't know where the ball was at. Didn't compete at that at all. That's a tough play to make for a safety, sure. So ideally, hindsight's 2020, but I wish Nelson would have been on the slot over Metcalf and Edmonds on the tight end. Feels like a better matchup for both parties. But similar to last week, I thought the defense was put in probably a bad call trying to defend empty. And I'll say it again. I mean, I haven't looked at the numbers league-wide, but I would bet a couple bucks that this team's the worst in football in trying to defend empty.
And teams pick up on that,
Oh, yeah. I mean, they ran the same concept that the Patriots ran last week. The tight ends run these little one-stop screens to hold the corners, and the slot receivers run seam routes. I mean, that's what the Patriots did last week. It's what the Chiefs did last year. That's not new. Teams are just doing it till the Steelers adjust.
All right, what'd you think about before we talk a little bit about Butler and all like that? What'd you think about the Bush the touchdowns against Disley?
Obviously, the first one was clearly on Bush, where he was just trailing, and obviously there's a height difference there. The second one was weirder. It felt like Bush was bad with his eyes, where he wasn't seeing number 2 go up the seam until it was too late. I'll have to probably take a closer look at that one. It was obviously a pretty rough game overall for Devin Bush. I will say, and again, I need to get through the coach's tape, I felt like this game was more about a player issue than it was necessarily a schematic issue, both for Fichtner and Butler. Not that those guys are absolved. I'm sure they made their mistakes and their criticisms, but I felt like week 1 was more of a schematic game plan issue, whereas week 2 was more of a player execution issue, if that's fair to say.
Yeah, but I mean, people are going to still counter what you just said by saying it's coaching. It all comes down to coaching, Alex.
Oh, sure. I mean, you could always circle back to that, and that doesn't mean that it's only a player execution issue from what happened yesterday. Coaches are going to take the blame for that as well, but I just thought just first glance watching it live that it was more of a players, because again, for all the plays that I just talked about, whether that's a Chicolo missed tackle, the McCullers penalty, the Moncrief drop, underthrown ball from Mason to Juju, Ben overthrowing Holden. I mean, those to me are all plays that were there for the taking, and the team just didn't want to take it.
And what did you think about that play with Chicolo on the penny? You had him dead to right. You got to stay a little bit. I think you got to stay a little bit more outside on that, right? Even so.
Yeah, you just gotta make the tackle. I mean, simple as that. And for whatever it's worth, because I gone back and forth, but I went through the charting last night. Ola was on the field for that play, believe it or not, the right outside linebacker spot. So he actually did see some time before Chicolo got hurt and before Chickman had that missed tackle. But yeah, 3rd and 2, you hold him to a long field goal. It's a 4-point swing, potentially has a 7-point swing if you make that play and they miss the field goal or whatever the case is. Again, just points on the board that a difference in the game.
I mean, obviously, he looked like he had him dead to right, kind of in the backfield on it. But what I want to see from the all-22 is, should he bid? Do you got to respect the edge a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, he's the force guy, but he still can squeeze down on that. I mean, Watt made that play earlier in the game where he squeezed the read and made the tackle. I mean, he's just got to make the tackle. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, it is a little concerning that, yes, it was a missed tackle, but then how does Penny go 37 yards the rest of the way? Get the guy on the ground, give yourself, defense, whether that's Hayden or Davis or whoever, a chance to defend more blades of grass, as Tomlin might say. But yeah, you got to make that play. And I know you and I have talked about Chick and why we're going to keep Chick and all that, but let me be clear, and I think you kind of felt the same way, is that I wanted a guy like a Daney to be the number 3 this year, have the chance to be the number 3 this year. I like Chick the way I like Dirty Red, where they're good and valuable special teams players, but if I can keep them off the defensive field, I'm all for that. So I want to just at least put that in perspective. It probably falls on deaf ears at this point, but I want to understand that my perspective with Chick was really largely a special teams thing, not that I loved him as an outside linebacker.
No, you wanted him on your 53. You wanted him number 3. That people don't hear the part of us saying that when we do our 53s, we try to do our 53s the way we think the Steelers would do it. I mean, us making our own 53s has no value to anybody.
Yeah, well, had I made my own 53, I'll be honest, I would have had Chick on there, even if I.
Right. But I mean, but as a special teams guy only,
right.
Because we know the value of special teams, and whenever Chick makes a bad play like this, people say, well, how's that special teams value now? And yeah, you can be very reactive. You can have the reactive bias like that, but I mean, it still doesn't. It doesn't take away from the fact that that's why he's on the roster. Mm-hmm. Make fun of it and try to have it fit your own narrative as however you want to, and mock it. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, it doesn't change that was the reason why they have him on it. A more experienced player than a Daney as well too. So. Look, I mean, you might not have to worry about him by this weekend, because he might be on IR for the next foreseeable future. And for people to be happy with an injury, man, I just don't get some of these people, man.
Yeah, yesterday felt, and I understand the anger and frustration.
It's vindictive, man. I mean, it's nasty. Look, I mean, we hate losses as much as the rest of you do. We much rather break down wins, but don't pray that Roethlisberger has to be sidelined X amount of weeks, and don't say, man, I'm glad he's out now. Talking about Chico, these are people's livelihoods here. These aren't just pawns on a chessboard.
Right. No, I 100% agree. I mean, I don't mean to cry myself a river here. I don't know if you had the same experience, but I felt that yesterday I've never seen, at least in my timeline and just kind of the reaction from the fan base, the anger and kind of the hate and vitriol.
I see it.
I mean, I'm sure.
I see it in
I've
wins.
never seen it to this level. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But I've never seen it to this level after like I saw it yesterday, at least on my timeline.
Yeah, it's the old mob, we want blood mentality.
Right.
We feel it makes us better fans if we cry, if we scream the loudest. Mm-hmm. For X to happen. Fire the coaches. Have Art Rooney sell the team and move it to Albuquerque. That Art Rooney doesn't care. I got one that said, I don't see the fire in the eyes of the players. How good are you at determining the fire in the eyes of players, Alex?
Not too good.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that either. There, it's all hyperbole, cliche, things like that. Now, let's go to something tangible here. I mean, we've talked a few times during the offseason about Keith Butler, about Terrell Austin. I mean, seriously, how close are we now possibly to seeing a changing at the guard? And look, I think if one happens, I think it goes exactly kind of the way I laid out during the offseason. I don't think you fire Butler. I think you demote him and make him back to linebackers coach, outside linebackers coach, and then Terrell Austin comes in there to run the defense. For one thing, I don't think the way that Butler's trying to communicate his defense to this team, as good as it might be, is going well. I think there's some level of chalkboard to whatever that's not happening. Part of me sometimes thinks they just need to simplify this thing a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, I don't think we're maybe that far away, possibly. And look, I'm the first one that says the Steelers don't fire coaches mid-season, and they don't. That's why I think maybe there's a possibility that you see maybe Austin get elevated and Butler move down to outside linebackers. What are your thoughts?
Maybe, but I still don't think we're close to that point. If this team liked Butler enough to keep him after everything that happened last year, I don't know what it's going to take to change their minds at this point. So if it does happen, I don't think it's going to happen for at least a couple more weeks.
I put out there like week 4, week 5, if this team, defensively after about 4 or 5 games is really crapping the bed, so to speak, that's when I think it could happen. Do I think it's going to happen this week? No. But, man, if you lay an egg out there against the 49ers, and boy, I mean, you want to talk about now you're heading, you're 0-2, and you got to make one of those West Coast trips against a not awful 49ers team.
Yeah, what did they put up, 41 yesterday on Cincinnati?
Yeah, and I mean, tight end.
Your boy?
Yeah, got to look at George Kittle now, and make no mistake about it, Garoppolo's not an awful quarterback, and I think they did lose an offensive lineman yesterday, but this is a team that you don't want to play in their place going in there on an 0-2 record. No,
I mean, you think about it just conceptually, Kyle Shanahan, a great offensive mind versus Keith Butler / Mike Tomlin / whoever. I mean, who's got the advantage there? It's the 49ers, and yeah, to do that in their place. Yeah, you're right. They lost Joe Staley at their left tackle, but I mean, if Devin Bush can't run with Will Disley, good luck covering George Kittle.
Boy, yeah, and who wore the helmet? Who wore the green helmet after Vince left? Did you see?
Someone tweeted it out.
Barron. And he's not a very good communicator. I mean, that's why he hasn't worn it in the first place, because he's just not. You remember, who was it? Was it Tomlin that talked about him?
Called him mute.
Yeah.
He's not your signal caller, so there you go.
Like the whole thing's moot.
Yeah.
Wrong moot, but it applies.
Right. I mean, and again, I saw Devin Bush after yesterday's game saying communication was the issue again. It's just, how many times are we going to go through this story every start to every season? Communication, we'll get it cleaned up. By the time you get it cleaned up, season might be over. I mean, it's so frustrating why the Steelers seem to have this horrible problem with communication. Every other team seems to be able to deal with it at the start of the year.
Are they going to spin the bottle this week to see who wears the green dot or what? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, go back to Watt, I guess. Why didn't Watt get it back?
I don't know. Maybe he didn't want it.
It's a hot potato. You take it.
I don't want it. You take it. I don't want to wear it. Let's get Devin. Yeah. Maybe that's what they need to do. Can it get any worse? I guess.
I guess it is a little surprising that Bush has taken this long to kind of come along. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but we kind of thought he'd be hitting the ground running. Obviously, he's struggling some, so maybe they don't want to put too much on his plate. But I think my vision for how this was going to go is obviously a little different than how it's played out with Devin Bush in particular.
Well, I mean, he played 80% of the snaps yesterday.
Yeah, well, I mean, he wasn't going to had Vince stayed healthy. He didn't see the field the first 2 drives until Vince went down.
And, Maybe they put too many other eggs in that basket,
Yeah. I mean, I'm still optimistic, still hopeful with Devin. Don't misunderstand me, but it's some growing pains for a rookie.
Yeah,
sure.
and right now, I mean, look, I don't know. Do you throw it on him this week or not? Going out to West Coast and all. I mean, sooner or later you got to take the training wheels off. But I mean, who? I mean, if Vince obviously, and how long is Vince going to be sidelined now?
Right. Those hamstring strains. I mean, he missed almost, I think, a month with that first one. I'm sure they were being a little cautious with him, but it's hard to envision him playing this week.
I mean, is he a guy now? I mean, if he goes on IR, that's 8 weeks. I mean, you're starting to run into a body crunch here before too long, right?
Remember when this team was healthy? That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Didn't last long at all. And all right, what else do we have in this thing?
Well, I want to get your. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about at this point because it's so out of our control. But obviously, the pass interference called on Terrell Edmunds on that deep ball to Tyler Lockett, that was another kind of game-changing type play. Really, the first instance we've seen dramatically, at least, of the new being able to challenge and review these pass interference calls. Just give me your kind of overview of, I'm guessing you don't like the rule, but do you think that was the right call to overturn that and say that yes, it was pass interference?
It's going to be unpopular, but I understand why it was called.
You think he was materially affected, as they put it?
I think the optics of it, when slowed down, make it appear as though, like I said, I understand the optics of it. I mean, Edmonds has got his arm wedged up underneath.
Yeah, but he's still got his eyes on the football, and I think Lockett's still able to make that play. I mean, they're just trying to jockey for position.
But you didn't hear me. I said the optics of what, and especially in slow-mo, it looks a lot worse than it does in real time.
Right. But I don't know if the ref should be being driven by the optics of it and just...
Well, and then didn't he go to say it wasn't egregious? What does egregious even have to do with it?
It was clear and obvious.
Either it is or it isn't, right? So I'm not so upset with it from the sheer fact that Bud Dupree should have been called for a penalty on the play.
Yeah, he's going to get a fine for that one.
That helps me turn my head a little bit to it. But it was a 38 yards? Was it?
I'm not sure. It sounds
34,
right.
32, something like that, yard play. I wasn't a fan of this when they passed the rule. I admit that something has to be done to prevent what happened against the Saints last year in the playoffs. But can we do this? Can't this be done within 2 minutes or something maybe? And calls come in from the booth and then look at those. Do we have to? That was a big call in the game, man. It was a big call in the game. Now, and like I said, it's easier. It's easier for the medicine to go down, knowing that Dupree should have had a penalty called on him on that play.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. It wouldn't have been a 38-yard penalty, though. I mean, that could have changed the complexion of things. I just don't get this league, Dave. You got the Saints game where they had the fumble, that was ruled dead. Took a touchdown off the board against the Saints, which, I mean, that team's been through enough. And you had the rule that was instituted last year of the Carson Wentz play where he dove for the goal line and was ruled down because his knee touched, because he was giving himself up as he was diving for the goal line. That's the thing. It's just, why is this league making everything painful when it should be fun?
Well, we wondered if it opened up Pandora's box way back when it was passed, and it seems like it has. I mean, this is someone tweeted at me last night. This is the most game-changing reversal yet when it comes to that. I mean, we're only 2 weeks old into the season right now, so I guess it's hard to. I suppose you could circle it and call it that, but I mean, it was. Let's see here, 38 yards on a 2nd and 20 at that. So even if you rule it incomplete and you penalize Bud Dupree on the play, that's a 15-yard penalty, right? So it's an automatic first down. So it's 1st and 10 at the Seattle 42.
Yep. And what was
so
the next
play? Pittsburgh 35. So it's a 7-yard difference. I mean, It's 7 yards.
Pittsburgh 35 and Seattle 42.
Okay, no, wait. What did I say? Seattle 42. So you're talking about 8. You're talking about 15 yards, right?
30.
40.
30,
Wait, 13.
I mean, no, it'd be 22.
Here we go with the math.
I know.
Monday morning math. Okay, 15 on to 27 would have put it at the 42 of Seattle. The ball was placed at the 35, so that's 15 and 8. That's 23 yards.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
So 23-yard difference. But the fact of the matter is, it still would have been first down.
Sure.
You know, they would have overcame a 2nd and 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
no, I mean, I get it. That was, Bud's got to go lower. That was very reminiscent of the Matt Moore hit he had. I don't know what Bud's doing there, trying to go high on that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, how much? It's hard to play revisionist, here after the fact, and say, well, then, that much yardage would have made a huge difference in there. They wouldn't have got that touchdown. Blah blah blah. I mean, we don't know that,
I don't know. I don't know if they would have got it or not, but. Obviously, I think it's a big difference, 23 yards of field position.
Right.
But to get off of that, because what can you do at this point? We'll at least not changing anything now.
One other thing too on were you going to get to the scrambles here? Or no?
Yeah, that's where I was going to go.
Okay.
Yeah, to the final drive, the 5-minute offense. Seattle ran. Seahawks don't get the ball back. Basically, we'll just set the scene for you, Dave. Third and 16, and whatever time was left. How much time was even left? A little more than 2 minutes.
2:11.
2:11. Russell 5-man rush. Russell Wilson breaks contain. Slides for 15 yards. 4th and 1 allows Carroll to be aggressive and pick up the 4th and 1 conversion. Just unacceptable. How do you let Wilson break contain? I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, that hurt. I mean, you have a chance to still win this thing if you get a stop there, because obviously if you stop them well short on that down. I mean, they're probably punting, right? I mean, they're damn sure not probably going for it, right?
No, I mean, I think a field goal was too long. They're probably going to punt.
Right, and then you run the risk of the block and the turnover. So probably what ends up happening is you maybe take a delay a game there if you're Seattle, and then you punt and try to pin them back. Here's Mike Tomlin's response to that. It was a 5-man rush on that play that you're talking about, the significant play, the third down play. We brought 5 because of his mobility, and so to minimize escape lanes. I'd imagine one or more, Bud Dupree, more people had their shots at him. We didn't get it done. No, you damn sure didn't get it done. You had kind of Mark Barron, too, kind of surprised, I think. Overall off that right side, I think that was him, that Wilson busted contain. And I mean, where was everybody? I mean, you got to start once you see that guy coming forward, you got to take off and get after him. And Bud had a chance at him and missed him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have to look at it again. There wasn't a contain on the play in the sense of there was no spy. I mean, they were all rushing, but all I know is that Bud saw Wilson break contain, and he's got to make that tackle. I mean, I know Wilson has some athleticism. He's a threat with his legs, but the dude's 30 years old and doesn't really run that much anymore. And Butler even talked about, I had in my scouting report that Wilson really only runs in the gotta-have-it moments. So, that he has a chance to take off there. And either way, regardless of what assignments were in that play, Bud's there one-on-one with Wilson. He's got to make that play, and he didn't, and that ended the game essentially.
Yeah, that was a crucial play because hell yeah, I'm going for it in 4th and 1.
Yep, and even it happened a couple plays earlier. There was a holding call. I think it was a 3rd and 9 that Wilson scrambled for the first down on it, and it was called back because of a holding penalty. But it's twice that you allowed Wilson to break contain, and I don't know if the hold made a big difference there. It may have, so maybe that was an issue on that play, but. How do you not contain Wilson in those big moments?
Yeah, that is definitely a play that you can circle right there for sure. I mean, if you like I said, let him scramble, let him get 6, 7, 8.
Get 10. They're still not going to go for it.
Yeah, and they're not going to go for it. So big. The problem is once you got past Dupree, that was it.
Right. Yeah, because you're playing man. I think it was man coverage behind, so vision's not on the football. So that's why you have to contain even all the more if you're playing man coverage, because the defenders are going to be late to react. If they're in zone coverage, so they can see him cross the line, they can attack, and he won't get that yardage. But if you're in man, I mean, you're not going to react in time.
Okay, block in the back on Sean Davis on the fumble return. Oh, Lord.
Sums up the team. I mean, it's just the dumbest stuff possible this team finds a way to do. I mean, no reason for that. Barron was going to score. It may have been ticky-tack, but you know how to avoid that play? Don't block him. Don't even touch him, and you won't get called for that. So just dumb penalties across the board.
What else was stupid?
Oh, yeah, the McCullers penalty. How about just not that stupid, but the lack of third down success? What are they, 6 for 25, 26 the first two games? This was a really good third down offense last year. I think they were 6th or 7th in the NFL at 44.4%, and they're sitting at like 23% in the first 2 weeks. I mean, it's just brutal. You can't keep drives alive, and that stalls you out. Put your defense on the field, wears them down. It's a whole cycle.
And look, I'm not. This is not meant to criticize, be critical of the Cincinnati Bengals, but I watched that game twice. Between them and the Seahawks, and the Bengals threw for over 400 yards. We went into this thing, and we said even on the Friday podcast, the Steelers offense should be able to move the ball against this defense.
That secondary's not good.
No, it's not. No.
And they were without their starting strong free safety and Tedrick Thompson.
Right, they sat Tedrick Thompson. They kind of even wrote. I mean, Delano Hill was in there and kind of rotated those guys' roles, I think, as well too in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't run on them, and they should have been able to. Look, they didn't have Poona Ford. You should have been able to run right at Al Woods and Brian. What's his name? The undrafted rookie they had up front. How many snaps did he end up even playing? How many snaps did those defensive tackles even play in this one? Let me look here. Woods played 36, and Moan, the other rookie, played 23. I guess the Steelers helped them out, being in allowing them to get in probably some of their sub-package stuff a lot, right?
Yeah, I thought there were a couple nice runs that Connor had up the middle, and Samuels, I think, had one or two, and obviously Snell had the 23-yarder on his first career carry, but he just couldn't get into a situation where you were in rhythm and on script enough to be able to get that run game really going effectively. I thought with the Steelers' run defense, they just allowed too many pop plays, 20-yard gain on 1st and 20, the 37-yarder by Penny, obviously. So while the run defense had a couple good moments, they were just too many explosive plays that they gave up that helped Seattle. They averaged, I think, 4.6 yards per carry in this one. Seattle did 2 running backs with over 60 yards. So just too many big plays allowed in the run game defensively.
And they had in total 5 explosive plays. 2 of them are running plays.
Yeah, the Penny and I think Carson had one right side.
Right side for the 21 yards. That was the one somebody had. Who was it that missed on that and then had a bad angle?
I think they just couldn't get off blocks. I don't remember a missed tackle on that play, but I could be wrong. Yeah, some of the backside pursuit was nice. Watt had a good game. Even Dupree had a couple of nice backside pursuit plays, but second half really couldn't get any pressure. I don't know why Butler blitzed Hilton so much in the second half. It really wasn't working. Every time that he blitzed, Wilson just too hot, and I have to look at the numbers on that, but I'm pretty sure Seattle's offense was pretty effective against that nickel blitz, so it just felt like a little overkill from Butler.
If I would have told you Will Disley would have had 2 touchdowns in this game beforehand, what would you have told me?
Who's Will Disley? That's what I would have told you. Both of them down the seam. It felt like 2015, where this team was a spot drop cover 3 team, and Seattle just exposed the seams, and it felt like very reminiscent of that. Even though the Steelers scheme has evolved to not play a lot of that anymore.
In my pregame keys, I said make DK Metcalf beat you. Well, they helped him out there. He only had 3 catches in the game, but one of them obviously a 28-yard touchdown in there. I mean, they did it.
Yeah. Nelson had a really good game against him overall, but the one matchup where they got Metcalf on someone else, Edmonds, it was 6. So you exploit matchups. You put this team in empty. You go empty to put this team, spread them out, and you find the favorable matchup, because every time that an opposing offense goes empty, there's almost guaranteed to be a good matchup somewhere on the field against the Steelers defense.
No interceptions once again, Alex, and now dating back to the Week 3 game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is now a span of how many games? Is that 16 games?
Yeah, Week 3 to Week 3. Well, 15, 16, I guess, depending how you look at it.
They have 4 interceptions.
How many of those are by defensive back? Because Dupree has one of them.
Hayden had one.
Yeah, Hilton had one off the
Sean
plastic
Davis
pick.
had one, right, against the Saints.
Yeah, Edmonds had one in the Bucs game.
But since the Bucs game.
Since the Bucs game. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, Davis.
Four interceptions. Hayden had one. Can you name that interception?
Worst Price is Right. All right, so we got Hayden, Davis, and two more.
Was there one in the Carolina?
I can't even think right now.
Vince Williams, Carolina pick 6.
Yeah. Watt pressure. There's 3. So who's the last one?
Who is the last one, Alex?
I'm sure someone's screaming into their computer right now.
It's so bad. There's so few of them. We can't. We're not recovering them all.
All right, I can try.
I hope you can't hear that audio I just have up on right now. I don't guess you can. Who was it? It's killing me right now. Let me.
You gonna look it up, or do you want me to?
I'm trying to look it up. Maybe a little bit of help here. Who did they play and get one against here? What in the Ravens, right? Was it Jacksonville? No. Denver, Chargers, Oakland. They had the one against Brady. They had the one against the Saints. Yeah, I'm drawing the blank.
Did Hayden have?
Oh
two?
no! What was it? Matty Ryan? Was it against Ryan?
Who would have had that? Hayden? Because I'm just trying to the interceptions last year. Davis had one, which was the Saints game. Edmonds was Bucs game. Vince was Panthers game. Hilton was Bucs game. Dupree was Bucs game. Sutton was Cleveland week 1. Hayden had 2. I think it might have been Hayden. Let me check out his game log.
Oh yeah, it was against Cleveland.
What was that even? What play was that? I don't even remember.
I think right.
Down
the right
Cleveland,
side, right?
Yeah, Cleveland's the 33-18 win was the interception, so that's the other one.
All right, so there we go. We didn't take.
That was painful.
Yeah, that was painful, like pulling teeth there. So 4 interceptions. We talked getting into this thing. Need 25 turnovers through 16 games, and how many did they have defensively?
2. But I can stomach the no interceptions yesterday because at least they forced 2 fumbles and recovered both of them. I'll take that. I can live with that.
It's got to get better. Got 23 more to go.
Yeah, I mean Sunday's game against San Francisco is a must-win, correct?
I don't see how it isn't. I mean
you go
here's the thing. At least you still have your divisional games ahead of you.
Right.
But
at least the division isn't great right now with Cincinnati.
Right. If you're a Steelers fan right now, you're very disappointed that Sam Darnold isn't playing tonight. You got to hope
half the Jets roster.
Yeah, you really got to hope that somehow the Jets find a way to. That would really, really help the Steelers out because you have the rest of the division other than Baltimore. And look, you still have a couple of games. If there's anything positive at this point, it's the fact that they still have all their division games left, and they would obviously have to run those.
Yeah.
And the only other, I think, positive aspect is the schedule does get a little bit lighter. The Chargers the Chargers even lost another safety, I think.
Yeah, Adrian Phillips. God.
I mean, that's 2 safeties that they still obviously got weapons on the offensive side of the ball, but they don't have Gordon. I mean, they become a very average team, and then look, even before you get there, you get the Bengals and the Ravens, right? So, I mean, by week 6, this thing we could be packing it up. We could be in draft mode. By week 6 there. What other encouraging, what positives can you try to give these people right now?
Yeah, I have a couple, and I'm sure people don't want to hear them right now. But remember this time last year, what was the team's record after 2 weeks last year, Dave?
1-1.
1-1.
Right,
so we were having a similar conversation. Obviously, there was a tie, not the loss, but things weren't looking rosy this time last year. And then this is when the team had a big win streak. They had that great week 3 game against Tampa Bay and went on to go 7-2-1. They reeled off a bunch of wins. So history is pretty recent. And The Steelers since 1989 have started 0-2 four times. Three of those four times they have made the playoffs: 89, 93, and 2002. Now, the last time it happened, 2013, they started 0-4 and went 8-8. Obviously, did not make the playoffs, but there is some history even for Pittsburgh. Starting 0-2 is not a death sentence. So, a little bit of optimism there. It's still a young team. Hopefully guys get better. Hopefully the news on Ben comes out and it's positive. I'm checking right now if there's any sort of update on that. I don't believe that there is, but I don't want to say it's over. You got to beat San Francisco. You got to do it. But if they do that, they beat Cincinnati, get back to 2-2. That was my goal. First 4 weeks, get to 2-2. You can manage from there.
Yeah, I mean, look, the coaches divide this thing up into quarter seasons as well too. So obviously we don't know the status of Roethlisberger. If you can come out of these first four games 2-2, that might be one game less, one loss more than what most people would have had you at, right? Because a lot of people are going to pick the Patriots, right? Is anybody shocked they lost to the Patriots?
No. Shocked by how bad it was, but
right. And you could have probably twisted people's arms at the beginning of the season and say, look, maybe this team does start off 0-2. Because of a quarterback in Russell Wilson only, Now, obviously, we looked at the tape and we thought, no, they should beat this team. If you had been away and didn't know what was going on, I didn't tell you Roethlisberger was injured, and I told you that, man, the Steelers are 0-2 after the first 2 weeks, would there be a lot of surprised people out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I talked about how tough this schedule was.
I'm not trying to paint it as go out and throw a party here, but you know what I'm saying?
Sure. No, I get what you're saying. This is not unrecoverable, but it's just how bad this team looks in these losses. Right. And it's just, how quickly can you get it fixed? They can it was like 2013. They got it fixed, but it took them a month to do so. And after that month, you were out of it. And so it didn't really matter at that point.
You've got to win this next game against the 49ers. And I think even history against the 0-3 teams is like, good luck,
Yeah, Houston did it last year, funny enough. They were 0-3, but it's like a 1% chance of making the playoffs. I think there's 6 or 7 teams in NFL history that's done it. So, season's over if they lose against the 49ers.
Statistically, historically, it tells you it is. And look, if you can't beat this 49ers team anyway, I'm not saying that they're bad because obviously they've got some – we'll see. Then you get the Bengals after that. Like you said, eat the elephant one bite at a time now that he's in the room with you.
Yeah. Well said, Dave. Any other thoughts for this game before we start winding down?
I think we're going to see a few roster moves this week, Alex. One might not even take effect. If Ben's down, do you go ahead and make that move to get another third quarterback in there just to help with the reps? We hear Colbert talk about all the time. He likes to have 3 healthy quarterbacks on the roster. So if let's say Chickalow, you find out by tomorrow that's going to keep him down for several weeks. Do you go ahead and put Hodges up on the 53 and then get you a third quarterback going in there?
Well, you definitely promote Hodges if Ben's going to be down, and I'm guessing that Ben's missing at least this Sunday, maybe a couple games at best case scenario. From there, I don't know if you add a third quarterback to the practice squad. Maybe you do. It could go either way. But yeah,
would you bring Landry Jones back?
Oh man, well he's not practice squad eligible, I guess. So
would you bring him back to back up?
Right, instead of Hodges.
Rudolph. I know people are screaming at their, I would say radios, but at their phones right now or whatever, saying no. But it would be a logical move, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it makes sense. Obviously, Rudolph's going to be the guy to start. I'm not opposed to that idea. But again, either way, first step is find out how long Ben's going to be out. But I'm pretty sure he's going to be missing at least this Sunday and maybe longer than that.
So answer my question, though. A third quarterback will be in Pittsburgh a fourth quarterback will be in Pittsburgh by the end of the week, right?
I don't know. I want to take it one day at a time. I know I'm giving you kind of a non-answer here, but my expectation is that should Ben miss, Hodges will get promoted if they add a guy to the practice squad. Maybe they don't. I don't know if it matters too much.
But the one they finally go into a game with 2 quarterbacks and the quarterback gets it.
Yeah.
Injured.
Who was the emergency quarterback on this team? Assuming that Gentry's inactive, because he would probably be the guy. Like, they go Wildcat? Do they go Deontay Johnson?
Good
Heath
question.
Miller used to be the old emergency quarterback. Hines Ward could be the old emergency quarterback. Deontay Johnson played some quarterback in high school. I wonder who. I'm just curious. Not that if it gets to that point. I mean,
maybe you line Benny Snell up, just run the Wildcat.
Yeah.
Get yourself out of there.
But again, with the injury report, I imagine someone's going to IR. Whether that's Ben, if it's serious enough, or Chick, or someone, Connor, if something that turns out to be super serious. I imagine someone's going IR this week.
All right, we're going to have a different 53. We'll talk. I'm sure a move maybe or two will have happened by the time we get back on here on Wednesday. Give you and I a little bit more time to look at the all 22, and it's going to be a painful week going through that again as well. Anything else stick out to you?
Not.
I guess we
right
should
now.
get. Boy, we got a lot of nasty emails, man.
Yeah. So before we get to our reader emails, the Steelers Nation probably not happy with how things are right now. How about you tell us about our friends over at MyBookie, Dave?
Alex, if you found $100 on the street, would you pick it up or keep on walking? Of course you'd stop and pick up the money. So why do you keep picking winners and not betting on them? That's why I go to MyBookie, Alex. It's fast, it's easy, and they pay when you win. Let's face it. Where you're betting at is just as important as who you're betting on. I wouldn't be telling you guys to bet with MyBookie if they weren't the best in the business. Do the smart thing. If you're going to bet this football season, bet with MyBookie.ag. Did you know you can bet on games after kickoff? If by the second half it looks like your bet is going to lose, you can always just take the other side of the bet with MyBookie. If you're the kind of guy or girl that likes to bet a little and win a lot, try a parlay where you pick multiple teams. If that comes through, you multiply your winnings. And no matter how you bet, the NFL season is always the best time of the year to do so. Join now at MyBookie.ag and they will double your first deposit. Use promo code TERRIBLE to activate the offer. That's promo code terrible. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid.
All right, Dave, let's open up that big old bag of emails.
Yeah, I forgot all about these emails. There's some unhappy campers in here. Brian Landau writes in, Big Ben /training camp. I remember a few posts or comments from Alex who noted that Ben was sitting out a handful of extra training camp practices that we all chalked up to veteran days off. I wonder if his elbow has been giving him problems for longer than we are aware. That could explain why he is so reluctant to push the ball downfield or force into tight windows against the Pats and instead threw 3-yard passes to Switzer. I'd be curious if anyone could look at the Pats game to see if Ben rubbed his elbow at all during that game as well. I know going backwards won't help things, but at least it could explain Ben's performance in week 1. It would make. It would all be speculative that way too, Brian. I guess Alan can talk about the training camp practices though.
Yeah, there was just a couple of days stretch where he was out 2 or 3 straight days. That was unusual, but who knows if that's cause for concern. I would just say that Ben's 37, and he's coming off a year where he threw the ball in the regular season alone 675 times. So there's a lot of wear and tear on that arm. Maybe it's just all catching up to him, but I can't give you any good answers from my outside point of view.
Everybody wants somebody to blame, right?
Yeah. But Ben is 37. That arm is throwing a lot of passes, and maybe it's just like a pitcher, one of those things.
Are our players coordinators good enough? From Achilles, 4-year listener. I was wondering, since I have heard you guys play a similar hypothetical games, would Davis, Evans, and Bud be the starters on any other team? Oh Lord, we're going down the hypothetical hypothetical rabbit hole here. Would Davis, Edmonds, and Buds be starters on any other team? The same goes for Keith and Randy. Would they hold the same position on any other team, OC and DC respectively? Thanks, and long live Steelers Depot. Take a shot, Alex. It doesn't matter, but
yeah, on some maybe, on most probably not. I don't think about it in those terms too much. Miami could take them. Maybe that's about it. I don't know.
Will Fernandez writes in, Fire Butler. Happy Monday, David Knox. When Keith Butler was not relieved of his duties this past offseason, I thought it was a huge mistake. The defense needs new direction. The plays he runs for this defense do not work. There's talent on this defense, but it's not used correctly. We extend Hayden, signed free agent Nelson, and neither of those two are covering DK Metcalf for the game-deciding score. I don't get it. Your boy George Kittle, Dave, will be licking his chops next week. SOS, help. We need a new defensive coordinator.
I mean, you guys know my thoughts on Butler. What I wrote last year was that he should have been fired. I don't think about that a lot right now because he wasn't. You just move on with the decision the team made. But, I mean, I've tried to be as objective as possible, but I think I've been very critical of Butler, and everyone kind of knows my thoughts on how this team is handling things right now.
Yep. Look,
were you in the fire Butler camp last year? I forget where you were at, or were you a little less aggressive than I was?
Less aggressive than you were.
Okay.
I mean,
do you think
I wouldn't have written a post fire Butler.
Okay.
But look, I mean, there's problems. I mean, and they're not going away. So I am to the point now where I don't think they're going to fire Butler. Not this week or next week or whatnot.
I don't either.
But I think you need to take a hard look at doing something different. So, if that's demoting him back to outside linebacker coach and then promote Terrell Austin. Look, you're not going to bring anybody from the outside in to be a DC, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, no chance.
So, you got to do something other than that. And, I mean, it's been kind of funny how Austin shows up and he's got, it seems like the perfect storm's kind of brewing for what I'm kind of talking about here. And look, I think Butler can be a good outside. There is a disconnect.
Hold on, Dave. Sorry to interrupt. Statement from Mike Tomlin. Ben Roethlisberger had an MRI on his right elbow Sunday evening, and it was determined by the Steelers medical team that surgery will be required. We expect the surgery will be scheduled for this week. He will be placed on our reserved injured list and is out for the season.
Wow. Well, there you go, Alex. I mean, we got this. Too bad we didn't have that before we started the podcast, but at least we got it in, before ending it. So we have a little bit of finality there, if you will, with him going to IR now, according to Tomlin. Obviously, they will have to bring in a quarterback this week. Will it be Landry Jones? I mean, I don't know, but I mean, this is Mason Rudolph's team now moving forward, and I guess. Bright spot, if you will, is that you now have the rest of the season to evaluate, what Mason Rudolph is and isn't for you. So, I mean, I know it's not perfect. And look, nobody thought Ben Roethlisberger was going to do what he was able to do when he came in during his rookie season. And I'm not going to dare suggest that that's what we're headed for. But, Rudolph did play well, as we talked about against Seattle. The schedule, does kind of set up. If this team can get this defense playing the way that we kind of hoped maybe it would at the start of the season, Alex, who knows?
Yeah, who knows is the key phrase there. You just have to hope this is used as a rallying point. Obviously, everyone knows what happens to your team and your odds of going anywhere, much less after an 0-2 start when you lose your franchise quarterback. But
I mean, odds are they're not going anywhere. But
well, yeah, obviously. But you can just hope this team uses it as a rallying cry and a chance to try to come together. At least Rudolph, I think, is confident. I think he's a good leader. I think, as you mentioned earlier, Dave, that the players respect him. And maybe you can do a couple different things with this offense, like use play action more, that may give offense some short-term help that they clearly need right now. But I think about, I was reading that statement, and I hadn't read the whole thing through, and I'm sure you probably heard a small pause when I got to the out for the season just because it was like that gut punch. But you think about Ben's future. I'm sure it's fair to ask, and no one knows the answer right now, not Ben, not anybody, but is this it for him? Is this a Terry Bradshaw 2.0, where Bradshaw's final game was an elbow injury and left the game and never came back? I mean, is that on the card? Is that in the cards right now?
Well, Dr. Mel wrote a little bit about that, kind of addressed can players come back from this. I think at the end of the article we just posted up on SteelersDepot.com. I'm not going to pretend to know the answer to that question, Alex. I mean, I don't know the severity of it. What do we even? We assume it's at I guess we're assuming it's at UCL, right?
I don't know. I mean, Mel's article seems to indicate that you don't normally need a surgery for that UCL for NFL players.
Okay, well, we don't know. So, I mean, if people are asking us, is this it for Ben for good? Does he hang it up? I don't know what to tell you, folks. I mean, let's see how everybody wants everybody wants instant reactions to to what's going to happen type thing. And I think when you get to an injury like this, you just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, no one knows. I will say this. I don't know if this is supposed to be a source of comfort or not. If Ben's healthy enough and his arm feels okay, it's hard to see him retiring after this season because the type of competitor that he is. I mean, it's the biggest competitor in that locker room. Players talk about that all the time. So it's hard to see him going out like that with an injury. I think he'd rather do it on his own terms rather than an injury dictating it. Now, obviously, the injury could be severe enough where it makes a choice for him. Who knows? He just doesn't feel the same. But my initial reaction is no. This is not the end for Big Ben.
That would be my gut. I mean, like, if he can play, he's going to play. All right, but, shall we get back to a few emails here? I mean, they're really.
We'll try.
Kane22 says, just wrote in, sure glad they gave Big Ben the big money. Kind of glad we get to see what Mason can do. Kane, congratulations on the silliest email of the day. That's flat out stupid, Kane. Thanks for writing in. Where were we here? Matt Johnson writes in, Dear Dave and Alex, I think the time of possession really hindered the defense. In the first half, they looked very good. They set up, scored 14 points to the offense, 10 in this game. I don't know the exact numbers, but it felt like the defense was on the field for much more of the game than the offense. I think we covered that kind of, Matt, in the snap totals there a little bit earlier. I think the second half was mostly them being gassed. I think defense is getting a bad rap in this game, and the offense should bear most of the blame. There's plenty to blame to go around on both sides of the ball. Matt, but I mean, look, you hate to see a second game of the season. Seemed to be pretty warm up there yesterday, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think that probably played a part. I don't want to use that as an excuse for some of the matchups and missed tackles and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the defense has been on the field for 150 snaps in the first 2 weeks, and I'm sure that takes a toll on them. And I think that was evident in the decline in the second half play, because that first half action was really strong from the defense, and as they wore down, then they started giving up some big chunk plays.
Chris McDonald writes in, I'm looking for the truth. I can handle it. This is from A Few Good Men reference again, Alex, movie that you haven't seen. Maybe you'll have to play a little bit more time to watch some movies now.
Also time in January, I'm sure.
Chris McDonald says, just a few questions for Yins on this fine Monday morning. In your professional opinion, do you think there will be a defensive coordinator coaching change in the coming weeks should the defensive woes continue? I'm not asking because I'm one of these fans banging for the table for Butler be fired. I'm more curious of your opinions on the matter. I do not believe the Steelers have a history of firing coordinators mid-season, so this would be something out of the norm should it happen. Let's assume none of the injuries sustained on Sunday require an IR designation. Too late for that. However, Ben's injury has a 4 to 6 recovery time. Who gets cut in order to promote Hodges? I think we got our answer there. You can move Ben to IR for Hodges there. I know you sent this in last night. Chris, look, the thing about the coaching changes, they're very unlikely to fire Butler. So I think if you're rooting for some sort of change, I think it's kind of what I've outlined for you. Demote Butler, promote Terrell Austin, and go from there. That's about all I can offer you there. Alex?
Yeah. I'm not expecting it, but at this point, honestly, I don't know what difference it makes.
Dustin Webster writes in, Hi, Dave. I usually side with you on the knee-jerk coaching change argument, but I'm mentally reaching a boiling point with the Steelers defense. We clearly have upper echelon playmakers at every level of defense, but safety and those guys have the physical tools to get a job done. Every week the defense bugaboos of communication technique, not getting heads turned around. I mean, how is the head turned around thing? I mean, look, when a quarterback, there's certain instances where a guy's not going to be able to get his head around, right?
Yeah, on the Metcalf touchdown, I just thought Edmonds did a poor job of finding the ball in the first place. I think he looked over the wrong shoulder, and that's why corners should cover Metcalf and not safeties. And
the whole Bush thing, boy, he put that ball, that first one was perfect, right?
Yeah, on the first touchdown,
right.
Yeah, but I thought Bush gave up too much space to at least, because again, not being able to contest it on the way down because you'd given up a yard of space. I mean, that was a poor rep from Devin Bush.
He goes on to write, anyone who suggests that Tomlin Wood should be fired after week 2 is kidding themselves. I would agree with you. However, do you think there is any chance we may see a DC change if we drop to 1-3 or, God forbid, 0-4? Dustin, I think we covered that, right, brother? It's either going to be Austin or nothing. At this point, I'm truly trying not to be fanatical with these opinions, but it's becoming more and more obvious that until something changes, we aren't going to be able to make a deep run. Well, with the news today, it's going to be tough on top of it. Yeah. Andrew writes in, hi, Dave and Alex. A couple of lighthearted questions to get us away from another disappointing loss, and so I can look past my 0-2 fantasy start. Dave, on average, how many bets per week do you make on football games? Andrew, that's none of your business. I hate to be blunt, but if the government comes calling on me, you know what I'm saying, Andrew? More than one. How's that? Who is both your favorite backup players on this team? Guys that may be in line for bigger roles historically, who have been some of your favorite Steelers backups? Which position coach is your favorite and why? Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work. I think Danny Smith would be Alex's. Best favorite position coach right now. That's tough after what we've after all that's kind of transpired here.
I like Carl Dunbar and Sean Surratt.
Yeah, Dunbar. Boy, for a while there was Richard Mann. Boy, I love me some Richard Mann. Favorite Steelers backups over the year? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Who are backup teams that might be in line for some bigger roles moving forward? Maybe Cameron Sutton. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where my head went to, with Sutton. But they were rotating Hilton and Sutton, so he's already got a role right now. Working in dime.
I don't know. Double dog Priest writes in, first time writer. Hey guys, really like the show after watching a little sample of Rudolph. I felt okay with him playing. Of course, I want Ben in there. He's a Hall of Fame guy, but I'm crazy to say this is the most confident I've felt about a backup quarterback in the Big Ben era. Maybe I'm crazy. It was only one game. Look, he's going to have his ups and downs, man. Should be nice to have that 2004 defense about right now, right?
I don't think you're getting it, unfortunately.
They're not walking through that door. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Hey, go re-sign James Harrison.
Bryce writes in, hey guys, fire everyone and sell the team right now. Just playing. Bad loss, but here are my thoughts on moving forward. Alex, you're spot on with your analysis of the Steelers not having an identity. However, I think the offensive identity needs to be this. Commit to counters, powers, and whams in the run game. Get downhill, control time possession. Use a lot more play action and work the offense from inside out. Definitely not saying they go full Ron Earhart, but funny, I saw that and I wanted to go. I knew the name, but I wanted to go Dale Earnhardt for some reason. But get back to basics and play the strengths of the offensive line. This will give the passing game a chance to open up more. Then they can take their shots down the field. What are both of you guys' thoughts on that? Look, you're going to have to run the football better, but it's a multifunction thing here. You can't expect Rudolph to do it all. No. You're going to have to run the football better. You're going to have, we talked about beginning of the year how the defense was going to have to provide better, and special teams, better field position starting points for this offense, even with Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback. Now you're really going to have it with a guy like Mason Rudolph back there. Number 2, do you think Keith Butler will still be the defensive coordinator after the bye week? Bye week's week 7? I don't know what side to go with that, but if they don't win in a couple of weeks, it's not going to matter. So really his job is kind of on the line in the next couple of weeks. This team better be, I don't know, Alex, this team better be 4-2 at the bye.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about week 3, just trying to get the week 3 victory, get some positivity, try to go 2-2 after the first month. In terms of the scheme of the offense, I mean, you can go, as you could apply to most young or rookie, but in this case, a second-year quarterback, a power run game, play action off of it, trying to not put it all on Rudolph's play, quick passing game, triangle reads. I mean, just some simple stuff, but Yeah, it's just, and is James Conner going to be around to help with the run game? We don't even know his injury status. Dealing with the Ben news right now, so who knows what this team's going to look like in Week 3.
Number 3 from Bryce. If I were the front office, I would absolutely pull the trigger for Mika Fitzpatrick and give up that 2nd, 5th, and Chukwuekorfor that Dave talked about. This team needs more playmaking and depth at safety, and Fitzpatrick checks all those boxes you brought up before. Based on where they are at, I think the type move would net positive results. Thoughts? Look, they're not going to give up a first, and it seems like Miami's stuck on that first. A 2nd, a 5th, and Chooks, I don't know. Look, that one move is not enough to save the season here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure that obviously was written before the Ben news came out. I'm not making any sort of aggressive move like that. I'm trying to keep my draft picks, and potentially, if I'm thinking of getting a top 10 pick in the 2020 draft, maybe trade down, get a couple more picks and something like that. I'm not making any play for anybody at this point.
And it sounds like we'll see what they ultimately. Would I give up a first from Minka? No. Would you?
No.
I wouldn't.
Even before the Ben injury.
Right. Even before I wouldn't have there. So, I don't think he's that big of a difference maker right now, especially after the Ben injury. Michael writes in, so I held off as long as I could, but my thoughts are eating at me. Why didn't the Steelers address the safety position in free agency again? And I'm not saying Mason is TB12, but he stands tall in the pocket with some nice poise like TB12. It's a little bit early, Michael, for the TB12 comparisons. By the way, I'm not excited going to San Francisco, even though it's in my backyard. And here's to no Tommy John for Big Ben. Sorry, we couldn't have read that one a little bit earlier. Pass coverage from Ted Webb. Sounds like once again our front 7, or at least in the first half yesterday versus Seahawks, played well, but it's the back end. And yes, Nelson played well versus Seahawks, but once again, no interceptions. That makes first 2 games quarterbacks versus us are 54-71 for 76%, 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. What are the issues? The scheme itself or the players not executing the game plan? Seems like these quarterbacks just pick us apart.
It's all the above when it's that bad. I thought, like I said, week 1 was more schematic issues. I thought week 2, while again Butler's not absolved, there were some more maybe individual issues rather than the big picture scheme stuff. But when it's that bad, it's always a combination of the two.
All right, we got plenty more of these to read, but we're running out of time, people, and it's pretty depressing right now. Anyway, so give Alex and I a couple of days here. We'll get back after it on Wednesday. The season goes on regardless. We keep on doing what we're going to do. The Steelers will keep on doing what they hope to try to do, and we'll see how it goes from here. Obviously, it's a Blue Monday, if you will. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do, want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. If you want an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the ad-free button up right in the navigational bar. And until Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.